Okay, you ready? Let's do it. You're listening to Chats from a Chair with me, Nick Dempsey, coming to you from my wheelchair. I speak with people who have a great story to tell, portraying the human potential, often in the face of adversity. Check out the Instagram page at chatsfromachair_podcast and let me know who you think I should have on and have a chat with. Also, don't forget to hit follow on whatever platform you're listening to this. But for now, sit back and enjoy this episode. G'day and welcome to another episode of Chat from a Chair. Coming up in this episode, I speak with great mates Sam Harrison and Henry Bradford as they each share their own story and one that brings them together. Sam discusses his unhealthy relationship with alcohol, how he battled that as a professional athlete, and recounts events that have led to him now becoming sober. Henry shares his personal story that left him on the ground and unable to move for a period of time, having partial paralysis and the effects of that he still feels today. As well as this, they both have a good mate named Ed that was diagnosed with MND in his early 30s. The boys open up on the feelings they had when they first found out, as well as the very impressive feat they accomplished as a fundraiser for him and his family. Stay tuned for all that coming up. Today I have with me Sam and Henry. Boys, welcome.
Thank you for having us, Nick.
Thanks for having us, Nick.
It's a pleasure to be here.
You've been pestering me about coming on. Finally got you. There's a few different layers to this one we're going through today. Obviously, Sam has his own story to tell. Henry has his, and then we'll touch on a mate of theirs that was diagnosed with MND at the end. So a bit to get through with this one, but to start with, just tell us a bit about yourselves, where you grew up. Doesn't matter which one goes first. Someone. Henry.
Sam, me. I'll go first. So, grew up in a small town called Hinckley, which is just 20 minutes outside of Leicester. Centre of England. Not a lot going on, to be honest. Quite cold, rainy. I've got two brothers. One sadly passed away, but lived Hinckley all my life. And then went off to uni at the age of 18. And then once I graduated, just came out to Australia.
Good decision.
Good decision.
Did you guys grow up in the same place? Are you from Hinckley as well?
Yeah, so he could have just done a joint.
Could have said we.
For me. I just had more sisters and a brother.
Yeah, it's same age and everything. You go to school together?
You're a couple of years below.
Yeah, I'm a few, 3 years, 2 years younger.
Probably look about 10 years younger.
Played tennis together and played boys at the rugby club together. So
okay.
Yeah, our dads are friends and
so always knew each other growing up.
Like Hinckley's small, so you literally know everyone.
Okay.
Everyone goes to the same school. Everyone does the same things.
Yeah.
And obviously Sam and I met at quite a young age just through our dads and stuff, and
both ended out in the Gold Coast.
Across the border,
northern New South Wales. Anyway,
we're a bit better than the Gold Coast.
Don't want that title.
No. So ended up on the East Coast and just across the border, which is a very, very different spot compared to Hinckley. But very lucky to live where we live.
Not rushing to get back.
Say that I went back
true.
a few months ago, but I was glad to get back.
I've not been back. I've lived here 4 years now, but I've not been back yet. But just sort of applying for permanent residency, and once that's all done, we'll be booking a flight home for a visit and no more.
Get back out here.
Yeah.
Nice. And Sam, you went on to play pro rugby over there?
Yeah. So just Leicester Tigers is the local team over there. So played at Hinckley where Henry played as well, and just through school and age group stuff, just got into the Tigers Academy, and had a sort of 12-year career before moving here. So it's been. Did
you keep playing once you're out here?
So it sort of made it work, me coming over and playing for a local team. So I got in touch with Henry, and at first I was going to move to the Gold Coast. Sort of earmarked this area as somewhere I'd like to live, and so Henry put me in touch. He was working for Reds at the time, weren't you?
Yeah.
Put me in touch with some local clubs, and it just turned out that the club that Henry was playing for, a bloke called Adam Leach, he actually set the club up, and so he helped me find work and help with my visa, and I said I'd play for his team in return, sort of thing. And
Perfect.
yeah, played my last game 2 weeks ago, so I've officially sort of retired.
Retired now.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Shout out to Casuarina Barbarians. So,
Yeah.
Yep. Big love.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, Sam, I want to start with you. I guess you probably realised you were going a little bit heavy on alcohol and decided to give it up.
Yep.
Tell us about your family's relationship with alcohol, your parents, and that growing up. What was that like?
I'd say my parents were pretty normal for the area we live in, and that era. I think we had a lot of parties at our house. Henry came to a few of them. His dad supplied the beer for a lot of them. His dad worked for the brewery, but I had a great upbringing. My parents were very sociable people, but they probably did drink heavily at times as well. But I think maybe back then, a lot I don't think they were any different to most people's parents, if you know what I mean. And there was nothing over the top, and there was no problems becoming apparent from alcohol during my upbringing. So very normal in all that sort of aspect of the thing.
And then what was your first experience with alcohol? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was probably around age 10, 11-ish. I just always used to have this weird sort of obsession with it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Just always made me excited. I just sort of had it on this pedestal that it was sort of exciting and fun, which I think there's probably an age, looking back now, where it is fun and fun things do happen. But for me now, there's not really much more fun to be had from me. It's the opposite, really. But
so it's one of those things as well. When you're not allowed to do it, it makes you want to do it a bit more. Growing up too.
Yeah, maybe there was that side of it. I was always I was never a naughty kid or anything, but I was always sort of looking for ways to have fun. Maybe not in the right way. I was always sort of in and out of trouble at school, but nothing serious.
Yeah.
But I was always looking for stuff to sort of get up to no good. Maybe that was part of it. Who knows, really? Yeah.
So that was your first experience drinking and, say, getting drunk, or when?
Yeah, I think I remember again, Henry's actually involved with this because he won't know this. So you remember Daredevil? There was a beer that Everard's did called Daredevil. It was like 7.2% or something, and I didn't drink at this. I was 10. It was I think I was younger. It was before the millennium. I was maybe 9, so I didn't drink, obviously. But we always used to have big parties at my house, and there was this one year where Henry's dad brought. This is all Henry. It's all Brad's fault, Henry. But he brought around this case of Daredevil beers, and there's this like cartoon of a red devil on it. And like age 9, I was like, that's the coolest thing in the world. So I took like 3 bottles up to my bedroom. I think Henry may have came up with me, and there was other mates there and kids of other parents and stuff. And I remember just having it. I probably had 2 of them or something, but it made me like so ill.
Yeah,
the next morning I was supposed to be going to a fire station to have a look round because I used to love like firemen. And I couldn't go because I was close to having my bloody stomach pumped that night because I was so ill. And that was my first experience. And I think probably looking back, my parents probably should have gone like, you shouldn't have done that. But it was a bit like funny at the time. And one of my mum's friend like looked after me and she was like, it's funny. It was all sort of laughed at a bit. Yeah. So there's probably an opportunity there to like, could have nipped it in the bud maybe. But looking back, I think I've probably enjoyed it all and just that all was the start.
It was put in a bit more of a positive light than it maybe should have been at that time.
Yeah, and I think that's
There's a couple of occasions. I remember your parents always had New Year's Eve parties.
Yeah.
And that was kind of my first experience with alcohol. I think it was with Sam around that age.
Yeah.
I just remember most New Year's Eves, like our parents would dress up and we'd just go and just get up to normal kid stuff. But again, you're left to your own devices, right?
Yeah.
So you just everything's all in the kitchen. Oh, take one of them, take one of them. Let's try that, and
It's
then
a
you just
pretty normal-
experience things as
Pretty
you
normal
do.
thing in I guess smaller towns as well, that parents hang out together and they get on, they drink, and then the kids are just left at their house running around playing together. And
right.
if you get into some, you do. If your parents find out, you might be in trouble. If they don't, you're clear.
Yeah.
But not that I would have ever done that, Mum and Dad.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was the first experience. Then going up through schooling years, did it progress from there? Start to drink more?
Yeah, I think it gradually did. And the problem was I was always heavily involved with rugby, and rugby goes hand in hand with beer drinking. So the two things really complemented each other. And I was always either at Hinckley Rugby Club, or I was after school games at John Cleveland College, or the pub after them games. And from aged 15, 16, it was quite, Henry would be no different. And most of the lads from that era and in that town would be very similar story to me, up to a point where you drink quite a lot after most games, and used to go Millennium Balti, where they'd serve you at age 14. It was, £1.20 for a Carlsberg.
BYO.
So you'd go and have 10 of them, and
that was pretty
learn how to drink really at this young age. And I just progressively drank more and more, I think.
Drinking just became normal part of the routine of you play rugby. Then
and it's always who's the biggest drinker in the team, and it's this badge of honour almost that you're a big drinker. And I don't think I ever drank because I wanted to be the biggest drinker. I just obviously loved it, but it's just that it's really celebrated in rugby, especially.
Is that even as you became pro? Because I feel like pro athletes either go one or two ways. They're either straight as narrow, focus on everything, or it goes the other way, and as they get money and I guess fame to an extent, then they just party more. I think rugby's maybe a bit of an anomaly, where there's still a lot of players who don't earn enough to be live that sort of rock star lifestyle. So you do get a whole sort of range of different people, I think, in rugby. And the way the sport is, you get all different types of people anyway. So I don't think there was that polarity of one extreme to the other in pro rugby. But with me, I just at first I was trying to be professional and training hard and doing all the right things. But then every weekend I was still getting pissed, really pissed, and a lot of the lads were as well at my age. And then it just got to when I sort of got into the first team and stuff, it just got more and more, I think, up into mid-20s, where I think I didn't realise even at the time, but it just did become an issue trying to manage both the things. I'd put a lot of weight on in the off season, and the coaches would always sort of like me, and I'd sort of get away with stuff, but they'd still be like, "Why are you fucking 8 kilos overweight?" And because I'd been on the piss every day for 2 months. So that'll do it.
It got harder and harder the older I got to manage my escalating drinking habit and being a pro rugby player. So it obviously all comes in a vicious cycle, and it's hard.
And then as well, I know you're in a band playing around different. This is obviously a bit more recent now since you've been in Australia, playing in band and pub scenes and that sort of thing. That's again an environment where you're encouraged to drink and around alcohol all the time.
Well, back in England, I started DJing when I was about 17, and that I eventually started producing music, and then I'd DJ quite a lot most weekends with one of my mates, and that was probably a good it's pretty obvious from them experiences that I probably had a problem or was going to have a problem, because every time I'd DJ, I'd be too pissed to DJ. Or to the point where, and it's funny. The problem with alcohol is the stories are funny. But it's not.
But it's not. Yeah.
There was this one time we were DJing, and Danny, he was my best mate, and I was sort of on last warning. He was like, "Mate, when we're DJing, just go easy." And I'd be like, "Yeah." Get to half an hour before our set, and he'd be like, "Where's Sam?" And I'd just be at the bar, wasted. And there was this one night, we'd actually put the night on. So I'd organised the whole night, and we did all the admin and got people in, and it was busy and really good, and I'd made loads of new tunes for it, and I was like on the day excited to play all these new tunes out, and our mate Josh was there as well. And you know, the night it was our turn to DJ, and I was, where's Sam? I was just like swaying on the dance floor, wasted. The bouncers took me out. They were like, no, you've had too many. And then like people were like, oh, look at this bloke. And I was like, no, I put this night on. And they were like, no, you didn't, mate. Just like booted me out the door. And that was just like standard really when I was just always wasted DJing. And that's something I used to love as well. So there's no reason to be doing that. So
yeah, like I said, you can look back on it now and there is an element of humour there to it. Maybe now, especially since you realised it was a problem, but as well, it was something that you enjoyed, and then you're suffering. You can't do that because of the alcohol for it, and I think that's probably something a lot of people can relate to. They've had something they're looking forward to, or I know I've definitely had nights where, obviously my 21st, probably let alcohol get the better of me, and that's ended up running and jumping in the pool, and now has spinal cord injury. That there's definitely elements of funny nights to alcohol, but then it can obviously be taken the other way. And
so did you have your accident like on your 21st birthday?
Yeah, I was at my 21st birthday party.
Yeah.
And I was pissed.
Yeah.
Ran and dove into the backyard pool that I've done 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And because I was pissed, hit the bottom.
Yeah.
Dislocated my neck. So that's another story of alcohol, just like.
Not as funny though.
Not quite as funny. Not quite as funny.
There you go.
Pretty funny, but not quite as funny.
Yeah.
But exactly. So that's one of those things that alcohol can just get the better of you. And you said it was something that did get worse.
Yeah.
What was the moment you realised you had a problem and that maybe you should stop?
It's a tough one to nail down, like a particular moment. Like I had, so as I said, mid-20s, I was drinking more and more. I had children, like 3 children in really quick succession. Got married, did all them things. And I sort of realised that rugby wasn't making me happy as a player. And being in Hinckley, the team I played for sort of thing, it was just constantly in my face. And a sort of a constant reminder that I felt a little bit out of place playing for Tigers a lot of the time. I sometimes wanted to be doing other stuff. And now I've realised it's probably just the alcohol trying to get me to drink all the time. Like, because I was like, I wish I could just go to the pub on a Friday if I had a game on a Saturday, but I can't. And I had that sort of battle going on, and it was just getting worse and worse. And then I was drinking because I was depressed, and then I was depressed because I was drinking, obviously. And it was just that horrible cycle.
Yep.
And it just got worse and worse. I ended up trying to bloody do something stupid. Looking back, I don't think it was a genuine attempt, but I was like, I can't deal with this anymore. It got so bad. I just took loads of tablets and was like, I just can't do this anymore, because it obviously wasn't that quick, but over months it just got so bad. And I didn't even realise I was only 28, so I was sort of, I still didn't really understand myself, I don't think.
Yeah.
And then I had a year off from that, so because I'd done that, I saw psychiatrists and had medication and stuff to address the issue, and they said, you got to stop drinking. So I was like, yeah, obviously. So I did that, but I still wanted to drink. That was the problem. And I did a year off. I moved to Australia, and then a year to the day I started drinking, but in my head I was like, it's just a beer now, it'll never be an issue. And within weeks it was sort of
escalated more again.
Yeah, and I didn't even know. Like, it just was. I was just drinking all the time. And I think the problem with my drinking habits is it was always behind closed doors a lot of the time. It was only really my wife who, even her, I'd hide it from her a lot of the time. And myself. I'd hide it from myself. Like, that's the crazy thing. And then, I just decided about January, I don't know why. Someone asked me a random question at work, like, how many beers do you have at the weekend? Like a normal Monday question. And I was like, just a few. And I thought about it. I was like, fuck, I didn't have a few. I was drinking all week. Like, it was a horrible amount I drank. And I thought, fuck, I don't have to do it. I don't have to be part of this anymore. And that was when I decided.
And that was
for real.
In that moment, you haven't drunk?
That was it. And I won't drink again.
How long ago was that?
8 months.
8 months, shit. Yeah.
It's good effort. Yeah, and it's weird. I just, obviously I've since that happened, I've obviously shared it with people online, and I've realised that it only works if someone wants to do that.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I just wanted to. I knew I had to, and I wanted to.
Because I know I've had conversations with mates where you might be hungover on the Sunday or Monday, and you're like, "Fuck, why'd we drink so much last night? Like, I feel like shit. Why? Like, yeah, why do it?" Then you do it again the next weekend, and it's just again becomes like a normal thing. And yeah,
We've had many a conversation.
We have had a couple of them on a Monday here,
Yeah.
haven't we? Yeah, and it's just one of those things. I think it is becoming a little bit more normal now to people not to drink, but still, I wouldn't call it a normal thing at the moment.
No.
But I think it is becoming more accepted, and but you got to be pretty strong-willed, especially if you're going out with your mates that are drinking.
Yeah.
To not like it. There's always people, and I'm probably guilty of it too, putting pressure on my mates. Oh, why aren't you drinking?
Yep.
Yeah.
This is the what I've realised so many things since I've stopped, but the big reason why a lot of people drink is for not be the one who's not drinking.
Yeah.
They don't want to be the odd one out or have that conversation like, I'm not drinking.
Yeah.
Because it's, I suppose, a lot of the time for a personal reason, maybe. And it's like you're going to live your whole life up until age 80 drinking because originally you didn't want to look like the odd one out.
Yeah.
And it's like
and
the different path your life could take.
Oh, yeah.
Like the one I'm on now, as opposed to the one I was on. Like, it's like a different...
Because it's glorified. And like you said, there was one of those things like who can be the biggest drinker sort of thing. It's like this glorified title that, I mean, you sit here and have these conversations. It sounds ridiculous. Like, why is that? But then on the night out, it just happens. You just have those conversations and it's just normal. But hopefully, I don't know, hopefully it changes a little bit for those that need it. For those that have, for those that do have it under control and drink when they want and don't when they don't, then, it's not a problem. But hopefully, if anyone does have that sort of problem, they can recognise it and, have the will they need to not drink.
Yeah.
But
it's just always around there, isn't it? Alcohol, like
it
everywhere
is.
you go. Like here for us, like when you first came, I took you to Miami Bottle Shop.
Yep.
And you were like blown away.
Dan Murphy's, yeah.
Dan Murphy's.
Oh, yeah, because bottle shops aren't a thing.
It's not a thing in England.
Yeah.
You just go down like
Tesco.
equivalent of like Coles and Woolies. You just buy a couple of cans of Stella next to the bread aisle. Like, there's not like a dedicated shop full of literally hundreds and hundreds of types of alcohol.
So Australia was a good place to come to get off the...
Well, I was sober my first 6 months.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah.
But it was hard. Like it was because I wanted to drink at that point.
Yeah.
This was the time when you came for a few weeks to
suss
the area out.
That was that was
before you moved over.
That's right.
So, just want to let everyone know I wasn't like taking him straight to a bottle. When I knew I wasn't drinking,
Picked
mate,
him up
we'd go here.
Picked him up from the airport.
He'd be all right. Let's just go in there.
But I think what Henry's saying is like it's so in your face at all times, and there's so much money involved in sponsorship and
TV ads,
huge corporations, and there's so much relying on the alcohol industry that it's really hard to get away from it.
Yeah. And it's such a social thing. You catch up with mates on the weekend. More often than not, you go into the pub to catch up. It's a problem.
And I think Australian culture is similar to England. In the UK, like when the sun's out in England, people just go to the pub and sit in the beer garden.
Yeah.
In Australia, you finish work or you'd go down the beach, you have a couple of beers. Like it's part of that culture.
Definitely.
I mean, which is fine if that's what you enjoy doing, but then it's what we're talking about when you take it to the next level and you're constantly thinking about it, or you're just having these massive weekends and it's not enjoyable like the morning after. Yeah. Whereas now, like, I know I don't drink as much as I used to.
Yeah.
Because one, I've got older and I can't handle the hangovers.
Yeah.
Second reason, I got a 2-year-old, so worst thing to have is a hangover and a 2-year-old, and
could imagine.
There's other things to do in Australia as well.
Yeah.
Like, you can fill your time. You can go to the creek. You can go to the beach. You can catch up down the park, whatever. You're always outside. Like it's completely different.
What about you as a mate? Did you see Sam and think that you had a problem, or in hindsight maybe?
It's a good question because Sam says like our area and stuff, where we grew up and our friends, like we've got a big kind of network of friends, and that's probably condensed. Small as well, I've got friends that I go to, Sam's got the same. But being a part of the rugby club, you know, everyone's doing what Sam was doing. You know, drinking excessively after a game on a Saturday, or you know, you'd see each other in town, everyone's drinking, that sort of thing. So you kind of like, you have your blinkers on, so you don't really realise the severity, and men are very good at kind of covering things up and probably not talking about it, or in Sam's case, not thinking really has a problem. So I suppose what you could ask me from a friend's perspective, I didn't really see it.
In hindsight now, do you look back and think, oh, maybe? Or still is it?
Look, I knew he enjoyed a drink because, you know, I was in the pubs with him. Yeah. You know, but
like you said, Sam, you were hiding it from people as well at the same time. So then I guess,
But I've got, you know, 5-6 other friends who do the same.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You know.
What about how did you find out that he stopped, and what was your reaction?
Just when he told me.
Yeah.
When he moved out to Australia fully in 2020.
What about like 8 months ago though, when he fully stopped?
What did I feel?
Yeah. Did it make you think about your drinking at all?
No. Look, well, I sent him a personal message, and I think I'm very proud of what he's done because, as you both know, unfortunately, my mum had an alcohol problem, which resulted in her passing away from it. So it's a very tough thing to do, and it just resonates the way Sam talks about it, how that, you know, would have been the same as my mum back in the day. Because me growing up, I could, you know, I knew she was hiding it. I could hear like the wine glass on top of in the utility room on top of the microwave at 10 in the morning. I can hear like the wine hitting the thing. You don't say anything, but you know, it's one of those where, you know, if she was a bit more open, and it's not like we didn't try and help, you know, it's just one of those things which led to more excessive drinking, and unfortunately she got cirrhosis in the liver, which poisoned the liver, which then released toxins into her body, which went into her brain and ultimately shut down her body. So difficult time for me because, you know, happened very sudden. As you know, I spoke to you about it.
Yeah.
But going back to your question, when Sam obviously made a decision to do that, I was just a bit of relief. Like, well, I'm glad he's done that because I know how it can end. Yeah. If you continue, and you know, you don't want that.
And you said you drink less now as well than what you did.
Look, I think it made me think before Sam did that when my mum passed. So it made me look at myself and, you know, what my drinking and how that affects people around me. But, you know, I can take it or leave it. I have a drink every now and again just to enjoy at home, bottle of wine. But if there's something going on, like an event, wedding, I'll have a good go at it. But it's not really an issue for me. Yeah, I'm not thinking about it. I'm not, you know, hiding it from anyone. Yeah, I've got control over it.
I think the biggest thing is that people are thinking about it more. Yeah. So you don't have to have a horrible problem with it to think about it, but just like Henry's saying, if you're doing something, so I think in Australia, I feel like England, it's a pub culture where you all go to the pub and get battered, whereas here it's you sort of have a beer with whatever you're doing, and everything you're doing. Yeah. And I find that's how I got really roped in over here is, I'm mowing the lawn, I'll have a beer. Yeah. I'm washing the car, I'll have a beer. Rugby training, I'll have a beer. I may as well have a beer before rugby training. And it's like, it just got me that way. Yeah. And I think now, since me sort of speaking about it, people have gone, I've realised that having a beer, you know, after rugby training isn't actually making my Thursdays any more enjoyable. Or going to the park with the kids on a Sunday afternoon with another group of mates, having a beer in that situation isn't actually making it any better. Yeah. It's just compounding my alcohol intake.
And I suppose that's a difference as well between being, say, an alcoholic who gets withdrawals and depends on alcohol, to then someone that has a problem with alcohol that might be thinking about a little too much or just drinking a little too much. There's a difference in that. That I guess is important to know as well, that, you know, someone that has a problem with alcohol isn't necessarily an alcoholic that is dependent on that alcohol drinking all day, every day. sort of thing.
Yeah, I think I've realised that it's probably worded the wrong way, isn't it? Like, alcohol is a problem. Like, it's a drug.
Yeah.
It's a marketed drug, and it's legal, and it's fine. It can be harmless and it can be fun, but at the end of the day, it is a drug. And to say like I obviously did have a problem with it, but do I have a there's nothing wrong with me,
No.
or like anyone else who enjoys a beer or maybe a bit too much. There's nothing wrong with them. It's they're unable to control what is a hugely potent drug that, as Henry's just said, takes people's lives. Like, there's not really any getting away from that.
I've had the conversation with people. I'm like, I don't know how alcohol is legal. Like, I mean, obviously they make way too much money on it for it not to be. But I'm like, it affects people. People die from things affected with alcohol so often. Yeah. Like, if the government wasn't making so much money from it, then it couldn't be. But it's, when you stop and think about it, it's wild. How do you handle situations these days around alcohol? You just firm, just say, no, I'm not drinking. Simple as that?
Yeah. I suppose at first I was still like wanting to hide, like, oh, I'm not drinking today, or like, oh, yeah, I'm off the beers at the minute. I'd say that because it just avoids that. Oh, what? Because people always want to know why. Like, they get panicking. Why aren't you drinking? But are you drinking soon though? Like, it's
mad.
I used to be the same. Jen at the rugby club, I'd be like, why aren't you drinking? Why are you not drinking? I don't understand. And he'd be like, I just don't like it. He didn't have a problem. He just didn't like getting pissed because, getting pissed isn't that great. But, I just don't like it. I just don't get it. I did not understand it. So now, I just say I just don't drink. And if people want to ask me why and interrogate me, I'll be honest if I've got the time. If not, I'll just say I just don't want to.
Yeah.
But, I think because I've now done so much work on why I was drinking and what drinking was doing to me, like, I've got no reason to want to drink. So I really, really don't want to drink. So it's not hard for me to go to the pub now and have a Coke because I don't want a drink.
Okay, what about any advice you'd have for someone that might be thinking about stopping, or just anything you think people should know about, like, the difference in you feel, or just any advice for someone?
Well, I just think it all starts with being, like, completely honest with, because, like, honestly, there's been probably like 50 people who I'm not in any way got like a big audience online or anything, but there's probably been more than 50 people who have messaged me, like, saying, God, I want to, like, maybe stop. I think it's a problem for me too. And I think once you've got that, once you say that to yourself, that maybe alcohol is a problem for you, or might be, then you've done the hard part, because then you've just got a decision to make.
That's the first step.
And I think that's where people go back to drinking, or like have a month off and then go back or whatever. It's because they don't actually make that decision that they're going to do it. But I've not answered your question at all, I'm sorry. But what I was going to say is, if you've decided, you've got to that point where you decided you don't want to do it, then that's probably the hardest part, because the next part is there's like so much help now that I didn't dream of knowing. I didn't know any of this was available. And now there's just like this completely like different room that I never knew, like where there's just thousands of people. And the other thing about sobriety is at first I was like, right, I've got a very boring life ahead of me now, and I'm probably not going to meet that many exciting people. And I've like met a lot of people online now, and they're exactly the same as me. Like, they're into so many things, and they're like, alcohol's getting in the way of all my other stuff. And it's like, if you think that alcohol is a problem for you, it's probably because you've got so much other stuff that you want to pursue in your life that's just stopping you. And all the other people who are doing it are like, they're so similar to me. And that's what it's been so exciting. I'm like, oh, it's the opposite of boring, it's exciting.
Opened up a new world for you.
Yeah, like, and it sounds cheesy, but it's the truth.
Yeah. Like I said, being honest with yourself and realising you might have that problem or wanting to stop is the first step.
Yep.
And then from there, you're able to then make the next necessary steps to better your life by the sound of it.
Yeah,
so.
like, and you don't have to try and you don't have to jump off a building to realise you've got a problem. Do you know what I mean? You can just go, I just don't want to feel shit on a Monday. I just want to feel clear-headed all week.
Makes sense.
You don't have to have a problem to quit. You can just quit if you you want to.
I like it. No, well, thanks for sharing all that. That's I'm sure that would help a lot of people in the situation. As I said, it's becoming more normal, I think, for people to open up about alcohol and not drink. So hopefully if anyone is in a position that has been thinking about stopping alcohol or think they might have a problem, hopefully this has been a bit of encouragement for them, or the trigger they might need to realise that and make that first step or make those next necessary steps. But we're on to the next one now. Henry, you had an accident of your own.
Yep, I did.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So it was 2020, the year of all years, really. A lot was happening in 2020. So I had a accident while I was playing rugby locally, again for Casuarina Barbarians. Sam was actually playing that game as well. It was his first game out here. Away at Grafton, which is about 3 hours away from Casuarina. First, I think 20 minutes. Took like a ball off a line out the back of it, and usually I just pass it to Tory.
Yeah.
But this time I decided just to take one up for a few metres. But again,
be a hero.
Yeah, be a hero. No support, and
the team on your back.
I was right behind you. I called
for it.
Apparently,
should have given it.
Apparently,
but
just made the wrong decision. But in rugby, you always try and stay on your feet until you get support. But my boots just got caught, and then there was two pretty heavy guys that had basically got me in an awkward position where essentially my head was in the ground, but my feet were still in the ground. And then just heard a massive crack and pop, and I just thought it was collisions or contact, and then just kind of went to the ground, and then everything was a bit of a blur, but I could feel pain just down my back, so from my lower back all the way up, and then I think a bit of shock set in, and then just couldn't feel anything from below down.
So you had a period you were laying on the ground there and you couldn't feel your legs?
No. And I did the research after, was like, is temporary paralysis a thing? And apparently it is. I don't know if it was messages going to the brain around that area.
Your body kind of goes into shock a little bit and shuts that area down and protects
I
itself.
My upper body was fine, but I was just trying to literally move my legs and feet, because I knew where the pain was coming from, and I just couldn't move them. And that was probably there for a good 10-15 minutes.
Were you on laying on the ground that whole 10-15 minutes?
Yeah, I can just remember being on my left hand side, and just kind of looking down at my feet, hoping them, trying to wiggle them.
Just had nothing.
Just had nothing.
And a bit of panic set in, or what?
Panic, yeah. I was I think just after that, a bit of shock, with a significant injury like that, the body was just doing all sorts, 100 miles an hour.
What was your reaction, Sam, seeing that happen?
I'd obviously been playing rugby my whole life, so without downplaying what happened, it was just another injury in another game at the time.
You don't think the
people
worst
go down, bloke Lance Deacon goes down 6 times a game. But it was just one of them where it looked so innocuous to me that I was like, he's obviously slipped a disc, and we just, when you're playing, you just carry on, don't you? We just warmed up, we just stayed warm, wait for him to get in the ambulance, and we'll worry about that after the game. But there was no panic within the team. We were like, he'll be sweet. Of course he will be. Everyone's always fine, aren't they?
Yeah, you don't think the worst straight away.
Yeah. Well, I'm the worst with that. He'll be fine. It's Henry.
Yeah, exactly. I
remember seeing Tory's boots. He said, "No, he'll be all right." And my first thought was, going back to alcohol, I missed the bus trip home.
Yeah,
it's a dress up. I missed the session after.
Yeah, shit.
But that was my first thought, which is a strange thought when you're in a tricky position.
Yeah, that could have been life changing. Well, I guess it has been life changing, but it could have been more life changing.
And that was my first initial thought. I'm going to miss the end of the game, and the other one was, how am I going to tell Case, my wife?
Yeah.
How am I going to say what I've done, and then I'm going to miss the bus trip home now because I'm in an ambulance.
Yeah, right. And then, so you were taken back to hospital.
Yeah, so from there, luckily, after about 15, I got a bit of sensation in the feet, which was good.
Yeah.
So I think I was lucky because their number 9 was actually a paramedic.
Right.
So he kind of knew like the procedure of what to do. So he kind of got onto my head straight away, knew it was a neck or back injury or whatever.
Yeah.
And kind of stabilised that, kept me still, and then as the feeling came back, because they called the helicopter. Cause if it's a spinal cord injury, they tend to just send the helicopters in. But then they called that off, and then popped us in the ambulance, and then got on the green whistle and went to the old Grafton
Helps everything,
hospital.
doesn't
It does.
Green whistle.
Yeah, good gear.
Yeah. And back to hospital, and by the time you got back to hospital, your feeling was back? Or
I could. Yeah, it's like minimal, minimal.
There,
but I could wiggle toes and stuff like that. I wasn't like walking around or anything. But
so did you break your spine but not hit the spinal cord?
Yeah, so when they got there, they put me into an MRI. Had a load of obviously scans and tests and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it was weird. I was kind of sat in the bed, still with my kit on, and then it was Saturday afternoon, right? So there's all sorts coming in.
Yeah.
Injuries, whatever. And I just saw the doctor come past, and he goes, "Oh yeah, that guy now he's broke his back, he can't leave," and then just walked off. I was like, "Did you just say that to me?"
Yeah, they're brutal, aren't they?
I was like, and then I don't know, I couldn't like buzz anyone. Like there was nothing around me. I was just kind of laying in this room. Like, I swear he just said he's broke his back and he can't go anywhere. And obviously working in the industry,
yeah,
you kind of know when you hear that kind of comment, there's significance. But luckily, obviously, came back 10 minutes later to give me a better debrief, I suppose.
Yeah,
which was good and nice of him.
You'd hope so.
He just had a busy afternoon, old doctor. But no, he said that I'd fractured the L1, which is the top bone in your lumbar, which is your lower back. Quite a common injury, he said, especially in old people. And then, just very lucky that it didn't have any implication on the spinal cord.
Spinal cord, yeah, true.
Yeah.
And then, so you still deal with that today? So.
Yeah, still. Just, I think as you get older as well, you always have problems. But yeah, just trying to manage it as best I can. I have 2 bulging discs in L4 and 5. And it's just about keeping moving, keeping up physio, trying to keep fit and healthy, not put on too much weight.
I couldn't help but laugh sometimes when you get stuck halfway down.
Yeah.
it all locks up when you bend over.
Yeah, if the listeners don't know, I used to, still do work with Nick occasionally, but I was one of his support workers for a good couple of years, wasn't it? And
yeah.
used to do transfers. Hopefully no one in the NDIS is listening. But I used to get stuck in a certain position when I was trying to bend down, or if I was trying to flicker your brakes off on your chair.
Walk around looking at his feet because he can't stand up straight.
So I have to just wait 30 seconds and then I'll have to push myself up. But yeah, it's a lot better now though since then.
Yeah, okay, good. It's just me, you reckon it?
Yeah, it wasn't that. Again, it's just me being lazy, not moving enough, not doing the stretching that I need to be doing, not checking in with the physio,
maintaining an injury. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. And then you've decided, or you work in the field now and work as general manager of Care Match.
That's right. Yeah.
Helping people a large amount of spinal cord injuries. Do you think it's given you a better sort of appreciation and able to communicate better with people around that?
Yeah.
Now because of that?
I think even before the injury, I knew people who had disabilities, but I don't recall any of them meeting everyone with a spinal cord injury. You were my first, really. When I came on as a support worker. So, and then when I started working with you, I it's just, I think I got a lot emotionally invested, as you do, because
spend a lot of time together. And
spend a lot of time together and listen to your story, and it just, I used to drive home sometimes thinking, it sucks, like, I hate it. I hate that he had to do that on his 21st, and I wish there was a magic pill, or if I could just create something in it. That's sometimes my brain just does weird things when I'm thinking. But it's just now I just have such an appreciation of never take anything for granted, and when I hear about all kind of the spinal cord injuries that come through as business for us, it's just kind of used to it now. Some of the stories that I hear and the accidents that I hear, and
You do get a bit, just like
yeah,
it doesn't hit you as hard as it used to.
yeah, and it gets quite upsetting. Lots of cases like that, stuff that you hear in the news, and yeah. But I suppose that's why I love doing what I do. Is you can kind of you're helping someone, you're supporting someone, you're making their life as easy as best as possible.
Yeah, like I said, from having if it was, the sounds of it, very close to a spinal cord injury, then to be able to apply that into what you're doing now is definitely got to help. But well, that's good dealing with it now, and you're back being GM, running things, doing everything for Tory.
Yeah, that's right. Cut that bit out.
Yeah. No, okay. That's, I guess, as I said, there's a lot of layers to this. It's the first two done, ticked off. That's both shared your story, and now the next part, I do want to talk to you about your mate Ed, who is still over in England. But before we get into the M&D side of things, just tell us about him. How did you guys meet him? And
yeah, well, I met him back in 2007. That's when I went to university. So I met him at Lincoln University. He just we met at rugby training, and he was actually staying in the next kind of, we called him court. So I was court 4, he was court 5, and he was in that apartment. And then we met at university, and obviously started hanging around quite regularly. Ironically, we both had just come back from Australia. He had a stint in Sydney where he was playing rugby, and I was living in Newcastle, your old neck of the woods on the East Coast. And then, we just kind of obviously clicked and had similar interests and lots of things in common. And I stayed on to complete my degree, but Ed was quite good at rugby, so he got asked to go back out to Australia and pursued a career in rugby.
Yeah, right. Sam, how'd you know him?
Pretty much through rugby. But it turned out my dad was his mum's doctor when she gave birth to him. So
oh, really?
yeah,
right.
Small world. And I actually, before I knew him, we went on like a holiday together apparently and played football against each other.
There you go.
We were like 8.
He was born in Leicester, wasn't he? He was born in Leicester, wasn't he?
I don't know.
I think he was born in
I've
Leicester.
got a terrible memory.
Yeah, he was born in Leicester.
All I hear is Milton Keynes. But I just met him properly when he came over. I actually hid. So he was on a trial at Leicester Tigers. I think he was still playing for Eastern Suburbs, and he was on a trial. And he was getting changed in our changing room. So I was like, I'll hide the new lad's kit bag. So I hid it. And I knew he was like not to be messed with pretty quick, because he was like, did you fucking hide my fucking kit bag like that? I was like, yeah, right, here you go. Do you want to be friends? And that was it really, yeah.
Yeah, nice. So he was a pro player as well, rugby union?
Yeah. So I played with him for 7 or 8 years, I think. In
England?
And at Leicester, yep. And then, he moved to another club, Gloucester, when he was about 2016, I think. And then then I still kept in my wife and his wife and kids are all pretty close families, so we'd always go and see him down in Cheltenham as well. So always been pretty close to him.
So Henry, you just surround yourself with pro players and just hang off them, and just
seems it, doesn't it?
It does seem that.
No, I've got other friends as well
that
don't play rugby.
Yeah.
But
it's like a wag, just
that's right.
Okay. Yeah. So handy. All right. So then, tell us about his diagnosis. He was diagnosed with motor neuron disease. Who, I guess, for those that don't know what motor neuron disease is, it's a disease that attacks the neurons that control movement of your body, any sort of movement at all, whether that's, I think it ends up shutting down, like, so you can't breathe and those things. And that's what,
neurological and all the signals that.
I was planning to do a good explanation in it.
That's the way you look at neurological.
Got the word neurological in it. But anyway, so M&D, tell us about his diagnosis and how you both found out.
I found out just on like when it came out on the BBC. I think a lot of I was in because obviously at Leicester we were a really tight sort of team, and he was our captain for a few years as well. But I was in like a WhatsApp group still with some of the players, I think, and none of us in there knew, and I don't think he'd told many people for obvious reasons. It's not the sort of thing you'd want to like shout off the rooftops, and I just saw it on a like BBC Sport thing, and that was it really. Like, you know, it's shocking. It was so shocking for everyone. But I didn't even know. I remember years ago in England they did like an ice bucket challenge, where you just throw a bucket of ice over your head and
nominate the
it was the ALS challenge for motor neuron disease.
That's right.
Even back then I didn't know what the fuck ALS was.
No.
Yeah.
And even when he got diagnosed, I only knew through Rob Burrow, who was a rugby league player who's got the same.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he's doing incredible things for charity. But they're the only reason I knew what motor neuron was. But I still didn't know what it was. I just,
Yeah.
So obviously researched, and pretty quickly I realised how horrible it was, and spoke to Ed as quick as I could. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. But you.
Yeah, it was probably the worst week of my life because I had communication with Ed before, while he was having tests and stuff prior to it coming out into the news. But I got the actual news when I was back in England the week of, like literally the day before Mum's funeral, when I was back in 22. I remember remember it vividly. I was walking up Ashby Road as I did most mornings. And then, I knew the call coming through because I knew he was having the results back.
Yeah.
And you kind of like praying before that, no, it can't be that, just in denial, like, it won't be that, no, it could be this, could be that, and you're doing research, but Ed's pretty black and white, he's pretty clear when he's messaging, it was all kind of steering to that, he just, complete shock and disbelief and just so upsetting, and again, not really much knowledge around motor neuron disease. I suppose Stephen Hawking comes to mind as the only person.
Was he motor neuron?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought he was something else.
He had motor neuron.
Yeah. Okay.
Or form of ALS, like.
Okay. Yeah.
So same sort of thing though.
Same sort of family.
Body shuts down, and there's actually a really good film with Stephen Hawking. What's the name? What's the name of it? I should have. It's a great film, but it just goes through his life. So that's my only recollection with motor neuron disease. And then just
because how old's Ed?
Same age as me, 35.
Yeah, right. And this was how long ago was the diagnosis come through? So that
22,
just over a year ago.
Literally a year ago and a bit. Like
it was July 2022.
Yeah. So what was it that made him go and get checked for it?
He had this is not to alarm him, this is what he said to me, because I was asking these questions when I was speaking to him. He said he was getting like twitches in his shoulder, and you can get that from obviously if you're doing physical workout or not getting enough sleep, that sort of thing, and sometimes it just goes away. But he said it wasn't going away; it was just constantly twitching, and he was still playing, and he was saying, fine, just kept coming up, and then it just got worse and worse. And I think he
started losing strength, didn't he?
Losing strength down.
Bench press and stuff.
Yeah.
I think
one
he was
arm.
hiding that.
Yeah, and then one day he could hardly pick up a dumbbell. He's like, ooh. And again, he was still playing like professional rugby.
Yeah.
And he was talking to obviously club doctors, he was saying, and then
just thought, this is a bit
weird.
Said,
right, we need to go. And so he was obviously going around the country, seeing the best people in that field of the disease, and had numerous tests and all that sort of stuff, and then got the diagnosis 2022. So I think leading up to that, it was probably had it for good 9 months, 10 months
before it
really got diagnosed.
Process elimination, isn't it?
Yeah.
Process of elimination.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And I know, Henry, when you found out, you did a lot of research into M&D and sort of, I guess, educated yourself and was talking to Ed back and forth about it.
Yeah.
Do you think, in hindsight, was that a good idea, or did you?
Look, even now, like when we talk, we don't talk about it. Like eventually, I'll get on to how you feeling, how's the family, how the kids, but we just talk about stuff we were used to before that, like just normal.
Yeah.
Normality is the best, I think. Just to, obviously checking in a bit more, but just talking about the World Cup, talking about life, Australia, England, and I was obviously back a few months ago, and my wife and I and the little one headed down to Ed's for a good few days, which was nice. So, spent some good quality time down there. But yeah, we just.
Do you think at the start though that was doing all that research was sort of a way for you to cope with it?
I think so. I just wanted to learn more about it and just
see if there was a way you could help or do anything, or
yeah, kind of. But I suppose just with anything like that, I always like to just research and find out what it is or how it affects the body and all that sort of thing. Again, it's quite upsetting reading more in depth as you dig deeper and all that sort of thing. But
if you think in hindsight, it might have.
Yeah.
Put you in more of a negative headspace, or you're glad you did it still?
But as long as I know the nuts and bolts of it, I'd say.
That's what
but now, I'm always looking at, and this line of work. Sometimes we've had people contact me who've had MND, about their care, and because I obviously know when it gets to a stage what cares are required for a person who's unable to do things that they would prior to MND. So,
same as anything, if you have someone in your personal life going through something like that, then it makes, if you do have to apply it to another situation, makes it easier having that background.
Yeah. And it was good because Ed, he'd ask me questions, how does this work when the time comes he needs assistance with, toileting, showering, medication, all that sort of thing. So, I suppose he used me a bit there to ask those difficult questions, really.
That's good as well, because I know some people can go, if they got a diagnosis like that, they can completely shut up other people out and go, I don't need help. And you can't blame people for doing that. That's just their way of coping, I suppose. But for him to be able to recognise and lean on you and your knowledge, and I assume other people around as well, that's massive for him to be able to do that and recognise that, one day he's going to get to this and I will need the help, right. So may as well get ahead of it. No point putting it off.
And it's the way Ed is, the way he's gone about it. He's not, sulking, or there's going to be times where he's pissed off and stuff and upset, but the way he's kind of approached it and kind of meeting it head on. Well, this is what it is. I'm going to make the most of everything possible now. So it's just like admiration for that, really. That well, if Ed's not upset, I've got no reason to be. So.
Yeah, it makes it easier.
And he's doing everything he can to, nullify the symptoms as well.
Yeah.
Well, last time I spoke to him anyway, and, that's the sort of person he is. He's, as Henry said, fighting it, not just letting it
control
dictate to him.
Yeah, that makes it heaps easier for you guys, I imagine, having him. If he was, laying in bed all day, upset, it would make it, I guess, a lot more upsetting for you guys as his mates looking on. The way he's able to fight it, make it easier for you guys.
The comforting thing is that he's got a great support network around him back in England. So, I mean, Sam living across the other side of the world, there's only so much you can do, which we'll probably go on to and talk about in a sec. But it's comforting and reassuring, I suppose, for Sam as well, that knowing that he's got a good circle of friends, he's got a good family. Good people around him, all the help he can get from his club. So, no stones get left unturned.
It's a very common thing with the people I've had on the podcast that have had disabilities or anything like that, that it does take more than the person alone to get through it, whether it's family, friends, whatever it is, that it does take a community to get through that. So don't be afraid to lean on others, ask for help, and the people that are helping, don't be afraid to ask for further help, that it is a community effort, so definitely don't be afraid to lean on other people. So
definitely.
I think that's a massive thing to take away. But as you just touched on, living on the other side of the world from him now, obviously difficult at times, and not seeing him for large periods, maybe you guys notice a little bit more if he has declined, or how's that affect you?
I saw him in July, and before that he was out here the October before, so let's say 6-9 month turnaround. When he was over here in October, he was, doing things we were doing, swimming in the sea, beach, just kind of
I got a funny
things,
memory.
really.
Can you remember us swimming in?
Yeah, we'll talk about that in Sydney.
Yeah, that was a good one.
But so obviously when he was here in October, just doing normal things, which he would, because he was still kind of new and still able.
Yeah.
But then when I obviously caught up with him in July. You know, not so much movement. Kind of needing an assisting aid such as a walker and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, his hands are the main thing and arms that have kind of deteriorated rapidly.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone's different in the progression of the disease and how it affects. So
yeah. I think one thing I probably not struggle with, but because initially, like Henry was sort of alluding to, I was thinking about it like all the time, and you know, early stages, what is it, what's going on, and I hope he's all right, blah, blah, and worrying, I suppose. And I know Ed being Ed, that'd be the last thing I'd want my mates to do. So I was like, right, I can't be doing that to myself and to him or whatever. Yeah. So then, but then the thing I still sometimes struggle with people asking how's Ed doing? Because unfortunately with motor neuron, there's no like, oh, he's actually better now.
Yeah,
like, he's on the up, or like, yeah, he's got his grip back in his left hand. It's always declining. So, you know, my dad rings me every Tuesday, which is a pain in the arse as well. He always asks, one of the first things he always, how's Ed? And obviously that's from such a good place, you know. My dad really likes Ed and always wants to know how he is. And unfortunately I can't go, yeah, better. Or, you know, so I spoke to Ed last week I did a podcast with him. And, you know, it was apparent to me that his speech now is tough for him, which is obviously a difficult phase, I think, probably of it, you know, losing that ability to just talk normally.
Yeah,
it will take some adjustment for him. But I think hopefully, I have no expert on any of this, but hopefully the technology, I'm sure you've experienced technology with your situation, but that is one thing that hopefully with Ed, he's got his voice banked now for his kids. I think iPhone have just came out with technology where you can like use that voice
awesome.
stuff. So there's that.
Yeah,
obviously.
I guess in quite a negative situation, that's a massive positive to take. At least you can technology advances,
definitely
advancements. You can help with something like that. But so following his diagnosis, decided to do a fundraiser for him.
Mm-hmm.
And ride from, we'll say, Gold Coast to Sydney. Whose brilliant but stupid idea was that?
It was random, really, wasn't it? Because I think before we messaged each other or spoke about doing something, I had in my head, I'd like to do something to raise money and to help Ed. That was my thought process. And they did something in England similar. Ed and his friends and ex-teammates, where they did a charity cycle ride from different points in England. And I thought, we should just do something like that in Australia. And then I think I rang Sam one day, or Sam rang me.
I messaged you and you were like, I said I already thought we should do a bike ride because a few of my ex-teammates doing one. And Henry had thought the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So we just met. And we were like, let's just go to Sydney, because I think Ed played in Sydney.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So we rode from where we lived to his club that he played for. So it wasn't just a random pin the tail on the donkey.
Yeah. How far is it, or was it?
What was it, like 900 and something Ks?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And how many days?
Give ourselves a week.
5 or 6 days, 5.5 days on bike. Yeah.
Train hard for it, did you?
Look, I wouldn't say train hard.
We bought a bike.
Yeah. Sam bought a bike. I actually borrowed Tori's.
I bought a bike off Facebook, and that was it. Yeah. That was all we needed.
Sam, there's some good stories. But I think I was telling you I did probably a handful of cycle rides. You know, it's just like from Pottsville to King, which is like 25 Ks.
Yeah, that prepares you, doesn't it?
One of the big rides I did was actually the Casuarina kind of end of season get together, and I just messaged Sam, you at which house you're at, and I'll come bike there.
Go for a
quick
ride.
Cello, quick drink, and then biked home. That was about the extent of my training, to be honest.
Yeah.
Not so. Answer your question, not a lot.
Not a lot of training, yeah. No. I did know the answer for us. Though.
Yeah.
I remember seeing some of your videos, Sam, riding in the dark. And would you have a light on that bike at all? I don't know.
Yeah.
You weren't hit before you even started.
iPhone light.
Holding that.
Yeah, I did one ride. I just went to the end of the road and back. Yeah. I was like, yeah, I can ride a bike. Sweet.
I remember Sam telling me like I'm gonna ride to bike because you're working in Byron at the time.
Yeah.
Pottsville to Byron's what? How many k's?
30, I think.
30. He goes, I'm gonna bike to work and bike back. And then if I can do that, this will be easy. So he did it. He said, just text me. It took me about an hour, I think, or whatever.
Easy.
There and back.
Sydney's easy.
And then we're like, yeah, right, we're doing it. Probably, I'm no expert or have any experience in organising kind of events, especially around cycling, something I've never done before. So not sure about Sam's experience, but I suppose it's quite limited like mine as well. So you couldn't put probably the two worst guys to organise an event together.
Worked out though.
It worked out.
Yeah.
I suppose as well, like, you didn't do much training, but if you didn't have that reason behind it, of you knew you were doing it for Ed, then might have made those days just a little bit harder, and you might have pulled out or something. Yeah. But I suppose you knew that you were doing it for your mate. Didn't matter how much training you had, you were going to get it done.
That's right.
Yeah, and I knew the nature of the ride and the people who would come and do it with us. That alone would be enough.
Yeah.
To, it wasn't ridiculous amount of cycling every day. It was about 200k a day. It was a lot, but
a bit less.
Was it 180, 150?
It's just big days.
Day after day, though. That's the thing that gets you, isn't
but
it?
when you've got a load of lads who are the same, and a lot of them have played with Ed,
good morale.
It's not easy, but it was enjoyable.
Professional athletes, a lot of them.
And you,
just me, and then a couple of other Inkley lads.
Yeah, right. So how was it? Tell us, how was the ride?
It was. I was to say it now. It was physically. It was like very, very hard for me anyway.
Yeah.
But it was the best week, one of the best weeks of my life, which I won't forget.
Actually, I remember.
I really enjoyed it.
You saying that one of the hardest but best things you've ever done.
Yeah, it was one of the hardest but best week of my life.
Yeah.
Because we just had such a good time after the rides. Because the way it was organised, it wasn't like we were in a nice hotel and beds and getting rehydrated, eating all the correct foods and having massages and physio, as you probably would for all I suppose an ultra kind of long distance event.
You went blood doping that night.
None of that. We basically had swags.
Yeah.
Setting them up after a big day of riding. Sometimes it was raining. So sharing swags. But then just sitting around kind of a fire and having a couple of beers and bit of food and just chatting away, and it was great. It was really good. What about you, Sam? How do you describe it?
Yeah, no, it was just a real special week. Obviously, Ed was over here for it as well. He flew over with his family, and the whole build-up to the ride was just really good memories for everyone. And hopefully, I think obviously we did raise considerable money, but I think that it was probably a bigger reason than money why we did it. And I think just to show support to Ed and raise awareness still is the biggest things to come out of it. And I know that he had a really good time over here. Like, his family were here for it. He was in Sydney waiting for us, and we had an amazing weekend, didn't we, when we got down there?
Yeah.
And it was just an amazing week, very different. Like, it wasn't like any other. It's not like work. It wasn't like a holiday, but it was this just completely different life for a week where you just got on a bike and went down the M1.
Yeah. Because again, we planned it kind of to try and stay off the highway.
Yeah.
But unfortunately that night, and I was in bed that night at home, absolutely pissing it down with rain, like battering it down. And I think that year we had quite a bit of rain anyway, and especially in the northern rivers where we live, it can flood quite quickly. So the routes that we had planned, leaving from Byron, all the roads were shut. And we're like, fuck, what do we do?
Highway.
Yeah.
Well, that was our only choice. So we're all piled in the back of this van, like literally all of us sat in the back of this transit van, and we're kind of looking around thinking, there's no windows, like, where we go. It was like literally like, you're just going to get dropped off here and then you're gone.
Start riding. So jumped on the highway, and pretty much all the way down from Byron to Sydney. Yeah, right.
All the way down.
Sounds hard. What was the feeling like crossing the line at the end, getting into Sydney and knowing you'd completed it? What was that like?
Well, it's good because we timed it pretty well, didn't we? Like, we only had, what was it, 50Ks on the Saturday to do?
Yeah.
Which doesn't seem a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
But
planned it to have the.
But you're going from.
It's actually the worst day of my
But
life.
was it Narrabeen?
Yeah.
So it's like Narrabeen. I think it's Narrabeen.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Sydney. So for 50Ks, that's do that with my eyes shut.
Yeah.
But again, you're forgetting what Sydney's like on a Saturday.
Yeah.
In terms of
Anything
traffic.
like it.
Yeah.
So that 50Ks felt like 150.
Yeah.
And then obviously that night, excuse my voice, that night, we obviously celebrated a little bit.
Yeah.
A bit harder than, we're at the finish line now, Saturday, easy. So we stayed up a bit later and had a few extra drinks, I suppose.
So Ed came to Narrabeen. It was
That's
the last night before we were like, the ride's done. We can walk it tomorrow, easy. We don't even need breakfast. Let's just walk it. Piece of piss. Everyone's there waiting for us. Brilliant. We drank so much. And that other lad came who had played with Ed.
Warwick.
Yeah.
Was it?
What? No.
Lee.
One of your Lee.
Lee
yeah.
Show, yeah. Lee
More
Morley.
people turned up. We had a chef turn up. We had all these people do a barbecue. It was amazing. But we were like, oh, we're done. Like, it was it. And we just, well, me anyway, bloody so hungover the next day. And it was so hot. It was horrible. That was the hard part for me. Like, the big days were fine. But that next day when I was just dying, trying to get up these clip into your bloody pedals, going up these hills, and there's cars going.
Lads were stacking it everywhere.
Yeah, it was
just because you just lose concentration. Because obviously you think, I've done it.
Yeah,
and the lad would just
switched off mentally.
Switching off. Yeah.
But then getting into Sydney was really cool because I'd never been to Sydney either. It's the only time I've been. But I knew of Ed's mates who played at Sydney, and I'd sort of conversed with them about organising this, and there was a big auction when we got there. But it was just really cool to like meet other people who were mutual friends of Ed's.
Yeah.
Ed was there. There's a few like ex-Wallabies there and stuff. There was cool people there, and it was just a really good day.
That was class.
Ed loved it, and we had a whole weekend. Look, our flight got cancelled, didn't it? So we stayed like an extra night or something. I can't
Something
remember.
like that, yeah.
But it was really good, and I think made some really good memories with Ed. It's the main thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. No, that's awesome. You said a hard week, but fun having a good group of guys around that were all doing it for the same reason, doing it for the same bloke. And I guess that says a lot about Ed as well, that people like yourselves and other mates are willing to put yourself through that to do that to help him and his family out and raise awareness for M&D and do all those good things. But crossing that finish line, must have felt bloody good. But so now, as we said, about 12 months on since his diagnosis, and how do you guys feel about it now?
How do I feel about it now? Still the same, really. It is what it is, but it's just about how to support Ed as best as I can as a friend, but not only Ed, the close people around him, his wife, his kids, and the knock-on effects has with family and friends. So it's just about being supportive as best I can, and the feeling will never change. Because again, it's an illness and a disease that, fortunately, at the moment, there's no cure for it. So it's only going to go downhill. So I know the reality of it. So
yeah. For me, it's sort of Henry said earlier, like all the spinal injuries he sees. Obviously, yourself, Nick. It just highlights to not take stuff for granted, and that's something that. I think going back to the drinking thing, I was not seeing how lucky I was because I sort of was blinded through the alcohol by a lot of it. But now with Ed, like I can either think about it all the time and worry and feel shit about it, or I can just obviously support Ed if he needs support, which sometimes is leaving him as well.
Yeah.
But then also just make the most of what I've got and be grateful for everything I've got. I think that's probably the best way for me to deal with it because, we're 24 hours away. Like, I'm going to go back to UK, obviously spend some good time with him, but I can either worry about him and his family for like up and now until then, or I can make the most of everything I've got, help him if he needs it and wants it, and that's it really. I think that's all you can do.
As you said, if the situations would change and it was yourself, you wouldn't want your mates worrying about it all the time.
Nah.
So the best thing you can do is just be mates for him.
That's right.
Yeah, I've always said, similar thing about with my disability. The more normal you treated, brothers still giving me shit, mates treating me the same. It helps everyone. So I think that would again help him massively, the same way it's helped you guys. But,
For sure.
that is it. Done.
Done.
Thanks, boys. Thanks, Sam, for sharing your story and Henry yours, and
Thanks
then
for having us on.
and then the about M&D. Guys, massive. I think there's a lot of people that will take a lot from all stories, and a big message of we had some, I guess, emotional things to touch on, but a lot of positivity around it too. Discussions that need to be had around alcohol and disability. So no, I think it'll be a massive help for lots of people out there.
Cool.
Agree.
Thanks for coming on, guys. Cheers. Well, there we go. That chat with Sam and Henry, as you could probably tell, came across. They're great mates, great blokes. You can probably hear that in the way they were speaking about each other and their mate Ed. It was really interesting to hear how Sam was able to recognise that he did have a problem with alcohol and was able to make those necessary steps to, what he said now, positively impact his life. So he's able to look back on those moments and now be very grateful for them. But hopefully that can resonate in your life as well with whatever it is. You can take any lessons from him and apply it to your own life. And Henry, sharing his story, again, a close call, could have ended up so much worse than that. So he is very lucky, but again, probably downplays the way he does deal with it now, that it's not as easy as he makes it seem. And to hear them both chatting about their mate Ed and just the care they have for him, the way they've been able to be there for him and do whatever's necessary since his diagnosis with motor neuron disease. And of course, the ride from Gold Coast to Sydney, they made seem so much easier than it is. There is no way it was as straightforward as they made it seem, but that's those blokes just downplaying it. But a massive effort. So hopefully you took a lot from that episode. If it did bring up any adverse feelings for you, you can contact Lifeline on 13 11 14 and engage with their services. Remember to check in on each other and that it ain't weak to speak. Don't forget to go check out the Instagram page at chatsfromachair_podcast and make sure you hit like and subscribe wherever you're listening to this, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever it is. Give it a like, a follow, and be notified when the next episodes are coming out. But for now, that's all from me. Cheers.